Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Misfits Racing League round. It is round 4, the Chinese Grand Prix, and we are about to jump in with our Tier 1 racers. But of course, joining me as always from the land down under, Mikcow, how you doing?
G'day, everybody. I'm doing really well, Strifium. Looking forward to seeing how our Tier 1 guys go around the Shanghai International Circuit. It can be quite a technical track, especially the first snail section, and also you have that fast but not quite flat out S's in Sector 2 and that long back straight. And I'm actually hoping to see some rain. We haven't had any rain this season thus far, so
No.
hopefully the heavens descendeth upon these drivers, but no, it should be a good race regardless, Striff. I'm looking forward to it.
I would love to see some rain. You know me, I already have my bet in the book. I'm expecting rain for Singapore. You heard it here first, everybody. Singapore, it's gonna rain. Strifium called it all the way back in August. Okay. Now, of course, let's take a look at the calendar. Speaking of August, we still have, of course, the Dutch Grand Prix next week, followed by Spain for round 6, and that will round off the month of August. And then we have Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada, France, and Austria to round off the first half of our season. Then we move into, of course, Britain for round 12, followed by Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Singapore, Russia, Japan, the USA, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi to finish out the season. And let's take a look at the teams lining up on the grid today. Zmayo and Brainstew over at Mercedes. Zmayo still not present. Of course, he was the champion last season out. Alex Biddo and Hyper over at Ferrari. Zamis and Swifty over at Red Bull. Yoda and Rackety at McLaren. Remco Van Houten and BTFU for Renault. Very pleased to say BTFU will be back on the grid today. He is ready to go racing. He has received the new car, if you will. Of course, we're referring to his computer. It took some time. He missed the end of last season, but he's back now in his Renault next to Remco Van Putten, Shenzhen and Freeware over at AlphaTauri, Bubar and Lutra over at Racing Point. We have the Alfa Romeo and the squad of Nigel and Jean. Henners and Astrodite at Haas with King and Custom over at Williams. And let's take a look at how these racers have fared through this season so far, as we take a look at the standings. Before we jump into this Chinese Grand Prix, Mikcow, it's Shenzhen leading us off here in first position for the Drivers' Championship. Van Putten in second, and Brainstew rounding off the top 3 with King in fourth. Alex Biddo there in fifth. Yoda 6th, Nigel in 7th, Freeware 8th, Jean in 9th, and Rackety rounding off the top 10, followed by Swifty, Lutra, Astrodite, Zamis, Custom, Hyper, Fubar, and Henry, Zmayo, and BTFU. BTFU looking to get on the points today. Now, we are ready to go. We are going racing here, of course. We get things going at 6:15. We're going to just switch over the tunes to what we've got going on in screen. But, of course, the race begins in a minute and a half.
Yeah, just experiencing some technical issues in the lobby. Wouldn't be a Codemasters game without them, so we're just trying to get our final seat filled. I believe it's Custom who's having some connection issues, but once he's back in and good to go, we'll get this racing underway.
Sorry, I just had something drop over here real quick. And oh, wow, okay. So before we even get going in the racing action, Mr. Raggy is rating with a party of 43. Let me jump back on over here. Thank you, Raggy. How you guys doing? Bika, Raggy, thank you guys for the follows. Of course, we're just about to get underway now. We have a chance to read the chat. Hello to Distance in the chat. Of course, we don't view the chat during the races. We're focused on all that racing action, but you guys have come in at a unique time as we are just about to get things underway here. Raggy, thank you very much for the raid. Glad to see you. Dylan, how you going? Tiger Jr., Walter. Very glad to see all of you guys in the chat. Of course, we are jumping into Tier 1 racing around Shanghai in just a few moments' time. We saw Tier 2 earlier, and a very intense race. But Tier 1, I think we're about to get things kicked up a notch here, Mikcow.
Yeah, Tier 2 had a lot of different strategy options. We saw our race winner Domi go for that soft to hard strategy, stretching those hard to whole 22 laps, which is no mean feat. It is quite the challenge to make those tires last that long and still have some decent pace in them. I believe he was still pulling away from A2K and Liam in second and third, even on such worn hard tires. So might provide some interesting data for the guys here in Tier 1, but as the counter now hits 0, we are heading to the circuit, and the drivers might not hope it's raining, but I certainly hope it is. Certainly provides a unique challenge for these drivers.
Oh, we want to see serious rain here. You know me, I want to see the rain, how it actually just throws everything out the window for these racers.
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's going to be any rain in qualifying. Looks like clear skies here in Shanghai. For this short qualifying session, if you're new to how we do things here, these drivers will have 18 minutes to set the best possible lap time they can to determine the grid ahead of this 50% race around the Shanghai International Circuit, which I believe is 28 laps, if I'm not mistaken.
I do believe 28 laps is the duration we saw from our racers earlier. In Tier 2, of course, that was Domi taking the win for Williams in Tier 2, with Liam in second and A2K rounding off that podium. Now, we have an entirely new grid to look at now. It's Remco Van Putten in the Renault Falcon, who is in the Haas today, reserving for, I believe, Henners. BTFU in the Renault, finally back to the grid. Yoda over there in fourth, Zamis in fifth, King in sixth, Rackety. Piper Fraser is reserving in the Mercedes today for Mr. Zmayo. Custom over at Williams as well. I believe it's just the two reserves on the grid today in, of course, Fraser and Falcon, as 18 out of the 20 roster drivers are present. But of course, Alex Bido, Swifty, Shenjay, Astrodite, Fubar, Jean, Nigel, McYeetis, all making appearances here. We saw Brainstew with a great race last week around Vietnam as well. So I'm sure he'll be looking to duplicate that here in China.
Yeah, we have a few cars out there on the track now. First of which being last week's race winner, Remco Van Putten. So he's hoping to keep that momentum going from a stellar drive around the streets of Hanoi, might I say, making that soft medium work. We were going on about making the soft hard work here for Tier 2 just around an hour ago. But doing the soft medium at Vietnam is an entirely different challenge. Just incomparable. Just the tires, the tire wear, keeping them managed. And I do actually have a weather report now. It will be a dry race start, but it is forecast to rain at the end of the race.
And that, Mikcow, is what we want to hear. You heard it here first. We're going to see some rain around China. How you guys in the chat feeling about that? I know how these drivers are feeling. I don't believe we're going to see a single medium lap set here. And if we do, they could be going from mediums into that perhaps intermediate compound. Who knows when that rain is going to come, but when it hits, it's going to hit hard, hopefully. So we'd love to see the predictions in the chat. Of course, Remco Van Putten now. Mikcow, take us through a lap around China.
Yeah, so turns 1 and 2, it's just this long right hand as you go up the hill. That front left tire is screaming. You have to find that, just spot that blind apex, and then down the hill slowly for turns 3 and 4. Careful to get on the power as you come out of the exit, and you have to just get all the traction that is available to those tires. Turn 5 completely flat, 100 meters down to second gear for turn 6. Important to get a good exit. You see the Renault driver of Remco Van Putten short shifting up to third, and then into turn 7 completely flat, and you just have to try and nail the line as best you can. And there's some traffic there in the way. That's Falcon, I believe, in the Haas. Hopefully not going to impede the lap too much. We can just see the car just washing out through turns 9 and 10. Falcon getting out of the way, then heading into sector 3, turn 11, opts for third gear, and then it's important to maximize the exit completely out of turns 12 and 13, which is this long right-hander before you lead down to the kilometer-long back straight, all the way up into 8th gear DRS. Open about halfway down the straight. Let's see what top speed the Renault driver can get to. It looks like around 330 kilometers an hour, breaking that 100-meter board all the way down to first gear for a tight right-hand hairpin. There's a lot of traffic there in the way. And then the final corner, probably one of the hardest corners to get right. Careful not to extend on the exit. Hug that right-hand wall. It looks like he backed out of it at the last second there. So it'll be a 1 minute 30.6 to start us off. But whether he's going to be starting the race on those soft compact tires is yet to be determined.
First lap set here, that 130.6. Of course, now we have a multitude of drivers all on flyers as we look to see who we can jump on with. Right now on board with Alex Biddle, but we're going to move a little bit further ahead on circuit. There's a Mercedes who's about to finish out a lap. Is it Fraser? No, that's going to be Brainstew on an out lap coming down through the hairpin now. So we're going to watch Fraser flying through down to second, kissing that inside curb, taking that inside wheel line through there.
Yeah, using all the track available at turn 16, the final corner. He runs out of deployment across the line. It'll be a 1 minute 29.5. Start us off with the first complete flying lap. And it's not a bad time for the Mercedes. Of course, filling in for our championship, or our reigning champion.
Zamis now looking to finish a lap. He jumps into the front row, a 130.5 on the softs. Custom.
Yeah, a whole second though.
Custom breaks that up.
Yeah, Custom with the 1 minute 30.4. A tenth faster than the Red Bull behind as Aphrodite goes even a tenth faster than that with a 1 minute 30.3. So that's a great time for them from the Haas driver.
GTFU, a racer who we have not had the opportunity to see set a qualifying lap throughout this season, is about to set his first lap of the season, Mikcow. Of course, on these soft compound tires, what's it going to be?
Oh, he runs wide at the exit and he just invalidates over that Astra circle.
No pressure, BT. No pressure, sorry. We'll come back with BT later. Another driver accustomed to my pressure here, as the commentator's curse seems to strike him regularly, is Mr. Fubar on a flyer right now through China, coming through that S section.
Don't do it. Yeah, Fubar heading through turn 8 now. Fourth gear for turn 9. Gets some decent traction out of those tires. See how he's going into sector 3, 100 meters all the way down to third gear for turn 11. Then turn 12, bring the car out wide and then cut back in to try and get the car straightened up as fast as you can through turn 13. Then the DRS flap gets opened. You make your way down the back straight. Let's see. Brakes at the 100, down to second gear. Ooh. Takes a lot of the inside curb and he loses the rear.
Very fortunate there.
Hairpin through the final corner now. Seems to get a little bit sideways there as well, but he'll come across the line in P6 for the Racing Point squad with the 1 minute 30.8. 10th faster than Brainstew, but Brainstew did set his time on the medium compound.
Another racer we're seeing make their debut here in Season 3 is Falcon, who was a prominent racer around Season 2, if those of you in the chat were around for our previous season. Of course, Falcon now in the Haas, reserving for Henry today. He's on a flyer coming through Sector 2. He's just about to touch through the split, and into Sector 3 we go. Now, this is a tricky bit of circuit, this Sector 3 right-hander, long right-hander. Very, very easy to unsettle the car. You don't want to touch any of that inside curbing because, well, I'm very familiar with what happens there. You'll probably send your car into that inside wall. But DRS wide open down the rear wing now for the Haas driver, coming into the hairpin. What's the time going to be on the medium compound tires as well, Mikcow?
He chooses to hug that left-hand side through turn 15. But he takes a lot of the inside curb. Could have been a little bit more eager on the power. It'll be P9 for the Haas driver. The 1 minute 31.2. Currently second slowest of the guys to set a lap time, but with how hard it is to hook up a lap around this circuit. He shouldn't be too displeased with that time.
Now it appears Hyper is trying to give Alex Bitto a tow here. And I don't know if this is working out for the Ferrari squad right now, as Alex Bitto has aborted his flying lap.
Yeah, interesting tactics there. As Swifty will come across the line with a 1 minute 31.5. So that'll put the Red Bull in P10 for the time being. Probably not super happy with that time, but there's a lot of time left in the session and a lot of time to find for the Red Bull driver.
Now on board with Big Nigel as he's coming through in the Alfa Romeo on what appears to be a flying lap. Currently in 18th. Of course, Nigel, no stranger to the MRL grid. He took a win last season in Australia Tier 2. And, well, he's been having a very solid season here so far.
Yeah, Nigel's sort of one of those drivers that we haven't seen a whole lot of, you know, having freak performances, but he's been very, very consistent over the opening 3 rounds. This is round number 4. So hopefully he's able to keep that consistency up and get maybe even a few more points. Heading down towards the hairpin of 14. Hooks that apex quite nicely. Does he get the traction he needs? He gets a solid bit of traction. Heading out of 15 into the final corner now. Probably could take a little bit more of that inside curbing, but he hugs that right-hand side wall. Come across the line, it will be P10 for the Alfa Romeo. The 1 minute 31.2. Only 100th behind Falcon in Falcon's opening race this season.
A lot of drivers setting some times on those medium compound tires could be looking to start the race on those tires, as they will go long here in China in comparison to the softs. The softs here are very quick to wear. As King now coming through the hairpin, looking to set his first time. He's had a very solid performance this season so far, and Fraser sets provisional pole at 129.3 here. King,
Yeah,
very close to that.
Yeah, some 5/10ths behind with the 1 minute 29.79. So we have cracked the 1 minute 29 barrier. Hopefully, there are a couple more drivers can join that illustrious club. But there's still 6 and a bit minutes remaining in the session, so plenty of time for these drivers to have another crack at it.
Zamis now coming into the hairpin, looking to improve on his P6 at the moment.
Snap of oversteer there, had to crack the car. That's not going to help his lap time. He takes the final corner relatively well, and he will join that sub 1 minute 30 club with the 1 minute 29.928. That's good enough for P3 at the moment. So Zamis now currently sitting on the second row of that grid.
Looking very rapid right now, that front end of the grid. Gap to leader at the moment between the top 5 is only a second, and these drivers haven't all set laps yet, and all the laps set are on a mixture of different tires. Shenjie hasn't set a lap, neither has Freeware. We're going to jump on with Freeware now, see if he's on a flyer. He's had an invalidated lap, so he's not doing anything. Let's take a look at BTFU, who is looking to perhaps finish a flyer.
Oh, it runs very wide. The
Valid
exit of
still,
turn
though.
10. And the game was okay with it, so very lucky for the American driver in that banana boat car. He gets some decent speed coming out of turns 12 and 13. So let's see how he goes at the hard braking zone of 14 into the hairpin. Can be a corner that is very, very hard to get right. Keeps it tight on the exit. And you have to really just attack that final corner. Does well to keep it within the boundaries this time. He'll back out of it. And that will be a 1 minute 30.66, 300ths behind his teammate. So that only leaves Yoda and the 2 Ferraris, as well as the 2 Alpha Tauris, yet to set a lap with just under 5 minutes remaining.
Hyper on an outlap right now. We'll jump on with him shortly. Rackety seems to be Coming into the pit lane here, Jean not actively flying. Let's see what Fubar is up to. Not too much going on with the Racing Point either. So it is Mikcow, in essence, that calm before the storm. Nobody has really gone flying yet. We'll see what Falcon's on an invalidated time as well right now.
Hyper going for a little bit of a slide through turn 12. Just trying to get some heat into those tires. So pass behind him. I believe that would be Falcon. He's on an in lap at the moment. Yeah, but I'm really worried about these guys who are yet to set a time, especially you know, the likes of Freeware, Chen-Jay, and Alex Bido, because those three have been competing for those podium places in the first 3 rounds. So would hate to see them start all the way down in 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Alex Bido, definitely a driver you're not going to be used to seeing down at the bottom of a grid, especially after his 3 performances so far here in Season 3. Now, Hyper, his teammate, also yet to set a lap coming through out of turn 4, Mikcow.
Yeah, looks like the Dane getting a solid bit of traction there, keeping it tight through turn 5, and spotting a braking point for turn 6. He locks up that front right. Probably hurt him just a little bit there. But through turn 7, does he keep it flat? Taps the brake pedal a little bit into 8. 4th gear, but you can just see that the car just washes away from him. So maybe not enough downforce on that Scarlet Red Ferrari. But it seems to be an okay lap so far. I wouldn't say it's been perfect, but it hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination. Let's see what kind of exit he's able to get through turns 12 and 13 onto the long back straight. There's his teammate there in the other red Ferrari, trying to give him a little bit of a tow. And he gets out of the way. Hard on the brakes. Into 14, through the little kink of 15. And then it's all about this final corner. You really have to attack it as much as you dare. Very tentative through that last corner, if I do say so myself. And it shows for it. He's P16, almost a whole second behind Swifty in the Red Bull.
The grid definitely tightening up now, and we were talking about how this grid can be so tight. Just finishing up tier 2 earlier, the gap last week from P1 to P10 in Vietnam, and this is Vietnam, the newest circuit to the calendar, was I believe 9/10, and now Bahrain the week before from 1st to 18th position was 9/10. I think we're going to see much of the same here once some of these faster drivers get these final laps, and Chen-Jay, Freeware, Yoda, and Alex Bido all among the drivers that can put themselves within split seconds of one another. So we'll see how they go. Bido now in the Ferrari. Doesn't appear to be flying, Mikcow, as he has no energy deployment going through that car, but Chen-Jay most certainly is.
Yeah, I don't know quite what's happening with that Ferrari, but there's a lot of traffic here in the start of Sector 3. Now, of course, there is a timing desync between our clocks and the actual clocks for these races. I do believe that there's actually an extra minute left for these drivers to start their final flying laps. But nevertheless, leaving it to one shot is certainly risky.
Chen-Jay coming through the hairpin now. In that AlphaTauri, one of the quickest drivers on the grid, to say the least. Let's see what he's able to do here on these medium compound tires.
P11. P11 for the AlphaTauri with a 1 minute 30.87. So that's probably not as hype as he probably hoped, in all honesty. Of course, he will be able to start on those medium compound tires, but as will everyone else behind him with the free tire choice. And Freeware out-qualifies him again by 2 milliseconds. So absolutely nothing in it between these two AlphaTauris at the moment.
And fairly tight. You see the massive change in strategy up and down this timing tower right now between the tires that all of these racers have on. We're going to see a completely different dynamic come race time, without a doubt.
My eyes are now firmly fixed on Yoda, the only other driver yet to set a time. As the checkered flag now drops, Lutra is able to improve only 400ths behind our current pole sitter of Fraser in that Mercedes. Next across the line, I do believe, will be S-King. No, he heads into the pits. So then we have a Red Bull. It'll be Zamis, he's on an in-lap. So he won't be able to improve. Then it's one of the Ferraris.
Would be Alex.
That is Alex Bitter. Currently down in 19th. We'll see what he's able to do.
Oh, very touch and go on that inside curb in there.
The P8 for the Ferrari.
And Yoda jumps into third.
Across the line. Yeah, with the 1 minute 29.7. So those softs really working on that McLaren. BTFU, what's he able to do? He is unable to improve on his time, so BTFU will stay in P11. And that will be your grid, ladies and gentlemen.
So, 20 drivers here. A great gap, especially considering the change in tires up and down this grid. Fraser right now with the fastest lap of the session so far, on pole position. Lutra in second, Yoda in third. So a very unique top three, not something that we're used to seeing. But of course, we have Alex Bitto, Remco Van Putten, BTFU all getting onto those. Well, actually, a lot of these times are set on softs now, if you look at that, as I was on the wrong thing. Bitto, the only driver there. Very, very quick from Alex on those mediums after all.
Yeah, it's a blistering time on the mediums, but I don't know if this gamble has worked out for all those guys who decided to qualify on the mediums, because with a grid as tight as this, anyone on those soft compound tires can just completely outpace you, even if you normally have the pace over a certain driver. So the ones who have really lucked out here are BTFU, Rackety, and Fubar, because they will get the free choice of tire come the start of the race. So they'll be able to go on that medium compound tire or whatever tire they deem is necessary.
As the session has finally come to a finish here for our short qualifying, we'll go down through the grid for you one more time in just a moment. Ahead of this race, it's going to be, of course, Fraser on pole, Lutra in second, Yoda rounding off your top three with King in fourth, Jean in fifth, Zamis in sixth, Astrodite in seventh with Custom in eighth, Alex Bitto behind him in ninth, and Remco Van Putten rounding off your top 10 racers here ahead of round 4. BTFU in 11th, making his debut back to the grid this season. Rackety in 12th, Fubar 13th, Freeware 14th, Shenjay 15th, Brainstew in 16th as well. Falcon in 17th, Nigel in 18th, Swifty in 19th, and Hyper rounding off this grid, bringing up the rear in 20th for Ferrari.
Yep, so just going to wait for the session timer to tick down as we head into the race. 28 laps ahead of the drivers here around the Shanghai International Circuit, with rain forecast for the end of the race. Looks pretty clear at the moment, but no, as a custom,
of course,
the weather can change quite drastically very, very quickly.
Most definitely. And with that being said, before we jump into this formation lap, grab a drink, grab the popcorn, grab a snack, grab dinner, whatever you can find, because this is going to be a scorcher and you're not going to want to take your eyes off of the action. Of course, feel free, shoot the link out to your friends. Got any friends in the race? We want to hear about it. Tell us in the chat. Who are you rooting for in this one? It's going to be a fantastic race here. Weather impacted race. Oh, I am excited, Mikcow.
I think it's going to really depend on how well the drivers spot the rain at this point. It'll be interesting to see who has adjusted their setup slightly, knowing that there is a chance of rain at the end of the race. But I'm also curious to see what tire compounds all these guys are starting on. I know don't really like to talk tires all that often, but there are quite a few different options here across the grid. So of course the top 10 are mandated by the sporting regulations to start on the same set of tires they qualified on. So all the top 10 on that red striped soft compound tire, except for Alex Bitto in that Ferrari on the mediums. And then below them, the back 10, we have BTFU in 11th, Freeware and Chenjay, so both AlphaTauris in 14th and 15th, and Nigel in 18th, all opting to start on those white striped hard compound tires. The rest of the back 10 opting for a fresh set of medium tires with that yellow stripe.
Let's talk safety cars, Mikcow. What do we think?
Well, I'd certainly hope not.
Certainly hope not. But what, of course, what's the... We were talking about this Unicorn and I earlier in the Tier 2 cast. This circuit has a decent chunk of runoff space. And given that, we notice safety cars are a little bit less well, prominent in the race. Do you think we'll see safety cars here? Do you think we'll see some... I mean, Tier 1 has been fantastic this season. We haven't seen that much mayhem and chaos, if you will. So maybe we're just getting to that rare safety car strategy overall now. But China as a circuit for safety cars, what you thinking?
Yeah, China's it certainly can happen. You know, turns 1 and 2 through 3 and 4 is a bit hard to get right, especially if you're trying to go side by side or, God forbid, 3 wide through those corners. It just doesn't work. The tires are still a bit cold. They don't have as much grip, especially if you're on those harder compounds. As one of the Alfa Romeo, I think that's Nigel taking out the DRS board. Who needs DRS?
He needs that extra edge. That split-second difference in recognizing where the DRS detection line is.
It does come up on the heads-up display, so...
Fraser very far ahead of this grid right now, coming to the formation finish as well here.
Yeah, just waiting for all these drivers to make their way to the grid. Just wait for that Ferrari of Hyper, that number 22 Ferrari. Of course, multiplayer numbers are finally back. So some of the drivers rocking their own sporting numbers. But here we are as Hyper takes his spot on the grid. In just a few moments, it's going to wait for the lights to come on. 3, 4, 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. Here at the Shanghai International Circuit, we wait for those lights, for the drivers to move, sorry, and they are away. It's lights out and away we go. Looks like Fraser and Lucha both getting a pretty decent start here. No major shuffle of positions coming into turn 1. Actually, as I say that, Yoda looking around the outside of turns 1 and 2 on the racing point. S-King following close behind them. Zamis behind them as well, just looking a bit further down the grid. There's still like so much side-by-side action going through this first sequence of corners, but that's Yoda making the move on Lutra. They're still side-by-side heading through turn 5, turn 6. There's a yellow flag. It's on the Ferraris off. That's Alex Bitto. So Alex Bitto has had a horrible start to this race. He's now down in 20th position. Yoda in that second place. Zamis in 5th. Aphrodite in 6th. Jean in 7th. Rackety 8th. Falcon in 9th. And Remco Van Putten in rounding off that top 10. Looks like BTFU has also had a pretty poor start, but a driver who has had a great start this race has been Freeware, now up in 12th position for the AlphaTauri.
Alex Bitto there with a major portion of that front wing missing. I believe it's the front left on the Ferrari, so he's definitely going to have to come in for a change. Eager to see what kind of tires he goes on. I can only imagine he jumps onto some hards here to see what kind of position he can get himself into. That was an absolutely wild start here. Now it's Lutra on the rear of the McLaren Yoda coming down that sector 3 straight. They're wheel to wheel coming down into the hairpin. He's just out in front of the McLaren. Yoda looking for a switchback coming out of the hairpin. Fraser getting away in first in the Mercedes right now. And Lutra with a very, very good move there.
Another driver who's had an amazing start has been Falcon. He's made his way up 8 positions to 9th place for the Haas squad. So a great start here on his MRL Season 3 debut in the new game. But yeah, some unfortunate starts for some of our, quite frankly, some of our faster drivers. Alex Bitto and Remco Van Putten both into the pits. Nigel having a spin through turns 12 and 13. So they're going to be looking to try and recover from that start. But all the way down the grid, some major shuffles in position, some big winners there, and also some drivers who would be very, very disappointed off that race start. I'm not going to lie.
Shenjay, though, on these hard compound tires. Looking at Custom for 13th right now as he wants to make his way up through this grid in the AlphaTauri. And Custom in that Williams right now, he's gaining on Fubar as well. So Custom is on the soft compound tires. He needs to get on with it and get some positions because those softs are going to degrade so quick. And he has Shenjay behind him, who is no slouch, and he's on the hard compound tires looking to go long here, as is his teammate Freeware ahead of these two, the Racing Point and Williams, in 11th. Meanwhile, we have such tight battling. A train is going to begin to form here. Zamis within half a second of King heading down into the hairpin right now. You see all of these gaps coming down into this hairpin all within a second. As soon as DRS is enabled, you're going to see those gaps tighten up and moves are going to start to happen here as well.
Yeah, it looks like Shenjay trying to make the move on Custom. Custom goes a little bit deep into the hairpin to turn 14. They're wheel to wheel on the exit. Let's see who can get the better traction, as Lutra is now catching up to our race leader as well as he sets the fastest lap of the race so far. But Shenjay with that overtake mode on, Custom squeezing him all the way to the left-hand side. There's just a cars within it. Can Shenjay hold it around the outside? He has to make sure that he doesn't take Custom out as they're wheel to wheel coming up through the snail section. Shenjay asking a bit too much from his hard compound tires at this stage of the race, as Custom will hold on to that move for now. It looks like Shenjay's gotten a pretty decent exit out of that turn 4. Down the inside, heading into turn 6 is the AlphaTauri. Can he make that move stick? He really needs to if he wants to have any chance of catching up to his teammate, and it looks like he's not able to do it. They're still side by side, these two, heading through the S-Strip, and this is unbelievable.
This is a serious battle we're seeing unfold here, and it's the softs versus the hard. You know Shenjay's got the pace, but of course Custom, having that quicker tire right now, he's equal with Shenjay in that AlphaTauri, and he is giving Shenjay a serious problem at the moment.
I'm also looking up just a bit further up the grid, as Zamis still within that half a second of the Williams in front. The DRS has been enabled, of course. He's using that overtake mode. He's gaining quickly on the Williams, but is it going to be enough to make a dive? He has a look. He decides to back out of it for the time being, but S-King going a bit deep there into the hairpin, but Zamis getting a little bit of wheel spin as Brainstew will get the move done on Falcon into the hairpin as well. Shenjay making that move stick, and Fubar heads to the grass at the exit of 15. So chaos all the way down this grid. But it is still CFR Fraser in that Mercedes leading this race. Only 6/10 in it.
Swifty, Fubar, wheel to wheel into turn 1. How's this going to go? It's Swifty round the outside. What kind of traction does he have in those mediums versus Fubar? We saw Fubar lose it coming through that final turn there a little bit. And Swifty has Hyper up his gearbox right now with BTFU on the hards in that mix. And there's trains all over this grid right now. And you love to see it, Mikcow. Brainstew in 8th, hunting down Rackety for 7th.
Yeah, another group of drivers that is getting pretty close to each other is Rackety and Brainstew. Brainstew, both on those medium compound tires, both stuck behind Jean and that Alfa Romeo on those probably really hot softs at the moment. We're going to see what the Mercedes can do. Brainstew, certainly one of the faster drivers on this grid, has had a couple of podium finishes this season already. Hoping to make it another one this time out in Shanghai. Uses that overtake mode, trying to get a bit of extra straight line speed. Opens up that DRS, but he opts not to use it on this occasion, trying to save up his battery for a better opportunity. This grid is so tight, I don't even know where to look, Striff.
It is very tight, but I'll tell you where to look. It's Swifty on the inside, down into the hairpin on Fubar, and he has a huge lockup. It's Fubar squeezing him off, saying, if you want to lock up and dive me like that, my friend, I'm going to give you no space when you try to come back to the circuit. Now it's a tap from the Red Bull into the rear of the Racing Point, and it's Swifty once again with the DRS overtaken full swing. They're wheel-to-wheel coming down this straight into turn 1 again, just like last lap, and let's see how they go this time. Swifty round the outside, and that's the Ferrari of Hyper again, still in the mix, and Swifty very tight. It's Hyper getting through on the Red Bull, and Hyper's now into 14th position through, and he's going to look to get the Racing Point and saying, Swifty, you're taking too long, my friend. It's my turn. Let's go.
Meanwhile, Brainstew and Rackety side by side heading into turn 7. This is not somewhere you want to be side by side, especially when you're both in points paying positions, but Brainstew with a great move takes that inside line for turn 8, and he will move up into 7th place. And now he has the Alfa Romeo of Jean next in his in his sights, next victim to fall to the black Mercedes.
Hyper there. Meanwhile, in that battle that we saw unfold further down the grid, Mikcow, we saw Hyper have a very good run at Fubar into turn 5. Wasn't able to get the move done, though. Fubar holding station there in 13th on the mediums, doing well as the German driver. Hyper, the Dane, not doing so hot in that Ferrari. Now he's dropped off the racing point a little bit, and Swifty, who was lost out into 15th position as a result of Hyper with a very nice move through that turns 1 through 4 section, is separating the two of these drivers now. As we've had another exchange of positions, it's Rackety and John wheel to wheel out of the hairpin into the final turn of this circuit.
John pulls into the pits.
As do a multitude of racers here.
Yeah, a lot of these soft runners pitting early to get off those red striped compound tires. Only our top 2 of Zamis and Fraser staying out another lap. So all these drivers in the pits hoping to get a serious undercut.
Swifty and Hyper now in this fight for the final points position as they're fighting for 10th. Swifty and Hyper wheel to wheel through that first section. And they're looking to catch up with Fubar as a result. Right now, it's Hyper falling off the Red Bull into this turn. Who's it going to be? Swifty has that inside line. He has such good cornering ability, but Hyper around the outside. Who has the better exit? And that is BTFU behind them on the hards watching this battle unfold. And I'm sure it's a great view from that Renault.
Yeah, it's either thrilling or terrifying at this point, because if one of those 2 drivers ahead of you makes a mistake, you are just that close that you can't really avoid it. But Swifty getting a bit out of shape, heading through turns 9 and 10, runs a little bit off the track into the AstroTurf. But BTFU isn't quite able to capitalize just yet. But all of these drivers will have DRS. Actually, as I say that, maybe Hyper was just a tiny bit too far behind the racing point to get that DRS. And he was, so the Ferrari driver won't have DRS. He's low on battery as well. Swifty using everything available. BTFU as well. It might be 3 wide for these drivers. BTFU has to back out of that, but Swifty round the outside, heading into turn 14. Our top 2 leaders also into the pits at this moment. But Hyper in that Ferrari, staying ahead for the time being.
Very fortunate is Hyper holding that inside there. BTFU having to drop off. You see a bunch of drivers coming into the pit lane once again now. All of these drivers shifting in positions. It's still a fight, though, between these 3. Fubar in 5th now. Hyper in 6th. You have Swifty 7th, and now BTFU in 8th. And there's going to be some racers who are coming out of the pit lane.
Fraser side by side, coming out of the pit lane. This is the battle for the net race lead at the moment.
Very touch and go through that section. They have to be so careful through there, Mikcow.
Yeah, Fraser trying to get his hards up to temperature as fast as he can, but it looks like S-King has made the move. Heading into turn 6, he has his nose ahead, and those mediums, those fresh mediums, are that giving him so much more traction compared to Fraser on those fresh hards. So he will be in the net lead of this race for the moment.
One thing to note is King is on medium compound tires here, Mikcow, so that is a very interesting tire choice from him. He's looking to go for another stop, most definitely at this point in the race. Let's jump ahead in this grid right now. Hyper still fighting with Fubar. Less than half a second is the gap coming through into Sector 3 now on that long back straight. DRS, but no battery. He's expending that battery to its absolute limit here. The DRS carrying him.
Or Fubar squeezing him to that inside line, trying to find the switchback, and there's been contact at the rear. That's BTFU running into the back of the racing point. That is absolute disaster for the Renault driver. He will certainly have to fix that, but no, he misses the pit lane, goes super, super deep, and gets a 3-second time penalty for his troubles. Oh no, BTFU.
And Lutra in 8th position on these hard compound tires right now, who has already had to stop in this race, is in a very good position on these fresh hards, Mikcow.
Yeah, Lutra getting a massive undercut on Fraser there, so very, very strong position for the Racing Point driver. But there's a whole gaggle of cars here through turns 2 and 3. As a bit further down, that's Alex Bitto and Falcon having a bit of a scrap for 18th place as well.
Well, there's a little bit of a wheel tap there. Alex Bitto doing a good job of getting the car back into control as it got unsettled a little bit coming down the hill.
He isn't quite able to get the exit he needs to make a dive at turn 6. But I'm just glad to be seeing that there's battles going on all the way down this grid. No matter if it's for 18th or it's for P3 at the moment, or P2, I should say, as Freeware in that AlphaTauri overtake mode, DRS on that McLaren in front. Rackety goes to the inside to try and defend. He's going to squeeze Freeware to that outside line. Freeware trying to hold it around the outside. Rackety trying to outpace the AlphaTauri through the traction zone, but it just isn't enough. And that AlphaTauri has now made his way into second place.
Meanwhile, Swifty and Hyper wheel-to-wheel coming out of the hairpin. Mikcow in this fight for 5th. Swifty on the inside ahead of the Ferrari now. Hyper running a little wide there on the exit. Now you see BTFU has come in to change that wing after the contact that he had a couple laps ago. Meanwhile, Fraser behind Nigel. Nigel on a solid strategy here. He's on 8-lap-old hards at the moment into P9. But Fraser, with the much fresher rubber, is going to be looking to move ahead of Nigel right now and even sways that car off to the outside of the Alfa Romeo. That's S-King ahead of them.
Looks like Fraser's going to try and make a move heading into turn 6. He used that overtake. Nigel opens the door for the Mercedes. They're wheel to wheel as they make their way out of turn 6, heading into turn 7. Fraser using a bit of overtake. The Mercedes has his nose ahead, but he's lost the car slightly, it looks like. Oh no, he keeps it under control. Heading into turn 8, and that will be an amazing move from the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, and Yoda's in there to slip through as well. Into 10th position.
Wow,
Nigel gets absolutely mugged here on lap 9, and those hards are starting to definitely impact him versus these fresher rubber driving racers, as you have Yoda on those mediums and Fraser on the hards.
And now we have Aphrodite behind the Alfa Romeo. He has basically a full battery, 70%, basically full in these terms. Going to be using that overtake DRS, but it isn't quite catching up to the Alfa Romeo.
The big dive on the inside.
Goes for a massive dive there on the Alfa Romeo. Nigel has to give him the room, and Nigel has now fallen 3 positions in the space of half a lap.
Meanwhile, we have some battling. It's Luktra versus Hyper. Luktra, of course, has stopped already, moving through traffic now to get as far as he can away from the drivers behind him that followed suit. He's into 6th position. Swifty's next on the list for the racing point. Of course, Hyper going to look to fight back on those medium compound tires, but Luktra on these hards could be going to the end.
There's been a spin there. That's Fubar at the exit of turn 15. But I'm just looking on my mini-map. This battle for 16th place at the moment. There's 3 cars right next to each other heading through the first snail section.
Yeah, Fubar coming off at the hairpin there. Now we have Custom and Alex Bitto in a battle. It's the Ferrari coming up on the rear of Custom through turn 5. On the outside, is the Ferrari going to get the move done? So quick wheel-to-wheel coming through this SS section. Now it's Alex on the inside through that turn. Now he's switching back. It's Custom defending as best he can here from the Ferrari.
Yeah, just keep one eye on that battle. But also these battles that are going to be happening down the DRS straight. Should be an easy move for Lutra on Swifty, as it will be for S-King on Hyper. And Yoda passing Fraser as well.
So the DRS train doing its job right now, allowing these drivers to overtake one another down the straight. Is Alex Bitto going to have the move on Custom? I do believe he will in the Ferrari, as he has had a very unfortunate race so far and is looking to charge through this field. Custom looks to defend. Very late on the brakes is the Ferrari of Alex. Custom defending him. And it looks like Alex has made it through on the Williams. Coming into that final turn as we jump back to the head of this grid, Luktra. On the 4-lap-old hards at the moment, currently running in 5th, looking to catch up with Shenji.
Oh, look at Yoda. He's gotten a good exit out of turn 4. Hyper is very low on battery. He's going to make a move down into turn 6. Hard on the brakes is the McLaren. The Albanian trying to squeeze the Ferrari out, squeeze him a little bit too much. Hyper has to go onto the curb.
Oh, and Hyper's losing out because of this. Fraser into 9th.
Yeah, so that squeeze maybe a little bit too much there from the McLaren driver. Has cost Hyper another position, now down into 10th place. And the clouds are starting to loom here, so...
Yeah, for those just tuning in, we have a weather forecast. And the rain is going to drop here in Shanghai. So these drivers on these hards, medium compound tires are going to be looking to jump onto whether it be some intermediate or full wets. We don't know the level of rainfall we're going to have here in China. I hope it's heavy rain because that would just make things extremely spicy. As Astrodate now on Hyper in this fight for the final points position, up the inside, down into the hairpin. What's it going to be? You see there, Hyper has a little bit of traffic in his way. That's Fraser holding the optimal line. And as a result, Astrodate going to get through, but it's Hyper with a fantastic load of traction on those tires, getting through on the Haas. And he has defended it for now, but it is another force of DRS coming through into turn 1. It's on the inside now, the Haas here. And he has made it into 10th position. Is Hyper going to be able to do anything about this?
Oh, Hyper sliding in the rear all over the place going up through turns 1 and 2, so I don't think he's going to be able to make that move stick. And Zamis has also gotten past the Alfa Romeo of Jean, it looks like, as well, on that previous occasion. But looking up a bit further to this battle for 6th place at the moment, S-King on those fresher medium compound tires is all over the back of Swifty. Just the grip difference is uncomparable at the moment, Striff.
The grip difference is uncomparable. You see King just charging in that Williams right now, which is something that we're not used to seeing, which is what we love about racing here online, because those cars that you're a fan of in that real Formula One World Championship, well, take a look, because King is absolutely flying in that Williams right now.
Yeah, he's also going to bring Yoda along for a ride as well in the McLaren, but S-King going a little bit wide there. But Swifty is going to be a sitting duck on this straight. Oh my goodness.
And now Yoda is after the Red Bull as well, Mikcow, and he's going to get him down into the hairpin. We have a beautiful shot from the rear of the Williams coming into the hairpin. Yoda on the inside of the Red Bull into 7th position. Lovely stuff.
Nigel as well making a move out of Hyper for P11, it looks like. A little bit of contact between those two on the straight, but looks like no damage for either driver, which is what we like to see. But the clouds are looming, Striff. It's just gotten darker yet again.
It's getting dark very quick here around Shanghai. Very, very dark. And when are we going to see the rain? Tell us in the chat if you are wondering. Let's hear some predictions. What lap are we going to start to see some rainfall here around China?
If you can't already tell, folks, Strifium loves a bit of rain driving.
Oh, most definitely. I'm used to snow over here.
Yeah, maybe not at this time of year.
Maybe not in a Formula One car either.
Yeah, meanwhile, there's still this very, very tight gaps between this fight for P11, and Yoda is still right on the back of that Williams for P6 at the moment. Looks like the top few have sort of spread out a little bit.
Hyper under threat here. That's Zamis behind him on the hard compound tires in this fight for 11th. As you said, Hyper has been on those mediums since the beginning of this race. Much fresher rubber for the Red Bull here, and he is going to have DRS as well. He's using that overtake. As soon as he gets in that DRS, you see that overtake comes off. Hyper with the DRS on Nigel as well, but it's not going to be enough for the Ferrari, but they're wheel to wheel coming down into the hairpin. Zamis clear out ahead. It is very late braking from the Ferrari. He locks up and he blocks Zamis. And who is that? That is Jean with a fantastic exit, and he is going to get ahead of both of them here.
It's wide. It's 3 right heading to the final corner. They all seem to survive. Hyper being the big loser out of that one. He will drop positions to both Jean and Zamis. Zamis looking up the inside of turn 1. Jean makes a massive mistake, goes wide, opens the door completely for the Red Bull. Is Zamis able to make that position stick? And he does. So that is Zamis now up into P12, chasing down Nigel ahead for that P11 spot.
The founder showing us how it's done there, Mikcow, if I've ever seen it. Astrodate right now hunting down Swifty in that 9th position. It's a battle for 9th. It's a battle for points, and you'd love to see it as the rain has to be coming soon, Mikcow. Things are very dark and gloomy here as now another driver has overtaken the Ferrari of Hyper. That's Remco van Putten into 14th position, as those tires are really starting to betray the Ferrari, and he wants to wait and see some of that rain, I'm sure. He's really gambling right now. He's losing a lot of track position waiting for that rain to come on those hard compound tires.
Yeah, all these guys who started the race on the medium, so I'm talking about Brain Stew, Rackety, Swifty, and Hyper are going to be really, really feeling the tire wear at this stage of the race, as we have now just crossed the halfway mark for this MRL Season 3 Chinese Grand Prix. But Aphrodite looking up the inside of Swifty into turns 14 and 15, and just the extra grip in those tires able to be enough to keep him ahead of that Red Bull. But all these guys on the mediums are just praying that the rain happens like within the next lap or so, because I don't know how much longer they can go before they start risking punctures in those tires.
I don't know either, Mikcow. It's a complete gamble for anybody on these mediums right now. Of course, it's the biggest gamble for Hyper. He has dropped a multitude of positions within these last few laps. A few other drivers on the same lap tires lapping a little better right now. Brainstew, Rackety in that top three at the moment. Of course, Shenjay behind Rackety now within a second on these hard compound tires. Let's take a look at position changes throughout this race. We have seen these AlphaTauris move up through this grid massively.
Speaking of position changes, Zamas had a little bit of a look up the inside of Nigel, but it wasn't quite on for the Red Bull. Sorry to cut you off there, Strifium. I just saw the dot there on that mini-map get really, really close. And another dot that's really, really close is Chenjay up in a fourth position, trying to chase down Rackety as the first few drops are starting to fall. I don't know how it looks like on stream, but on my screen, the first drops are starting to fall down this back straight as Chenjay makes the move on the McLaren. So now he will join his teammate into that podium spot. And if these two AlphaTauri can keep the current positions they are, my goodness, it's going to be a massive haul of points for that team.
Now, the rain has started to fall here, especially down in that hairpin section. It doesn't seem like there's too much rain dropping down through turn 1 at the moment. Of course, rain's going to start falling differently in certain areas of the circuit. You really don't notice it when you're here in the virtual world, but that circuit is massive. And I think we're just seeing it start to come down here through turn 1 now. So these drivers are going to have to gamble. When is it going to be time to come in for these slick or these wet weather running tires? Of course, they're on the slicks right now. They're using these dry compound tires. A couple of drivers really gambling, and I'm sure they're going to be happy. Like Hyper now. Hyper has gone into the pit lane, Mikcow. He's the first to do so. Is he going to be going on to some wet compound tires? That is going to be the big question, and he is not. So he is going on to the hard compound tires, which is huge because he's definitely going to have to come off to them if the rain is as heavy as we think it's going to get. At the very least, enough to see the wet compound tires. But we have seen rain in the past not warranting wet compound tires, so who knows what it's going to be. Time will tell.
Time will most definitely tell. Interesting that Hyper went onto the hards instead of the mediums. Mediums again. Maybe he thinks that, you know, that rain isn't going to be heavy enough to change to the green stripe intermediate tires. But all these drivers here for this final, not even final points positions for P11 at the moment. All these drivers down here not even caring that it's raining. They still want to get as high up the grid as they can as the two Alfa Romeos going side by side through turn 13. They're both going to have DRS. Looks like Jean will be the lead Alpha for the time being.
Oh, they got to be careful.
They have to be careful heading into this massive braking zone. All these drivers doing well to not collide with each other. Braking can be extremely, extremely difficult in these kind of conditions.
Other thing to note right now, Mikcow, from the top to where we are watching right now, all the way through into 15th, not a single gap exceeding 5 seconds on this grid right now, which means if any of these racers make any kind of catastrophic mistake throughout, they are going to drop a serious amount of positions. Although we're not seeing too many super close wheel-to-wheel battles, I have to stress to you, this grid is extremely, extremely tight right now.
Yeah, currently the smallest gap is this one between 11th and 12th at the moment. As Jean trying to close up to Zamas. Zamas struggling a little bit in these changeable conditions. Fubar has pulled the pin. He's put on a set of intermediate tires. Nothing else to lose at that point. Really, really unfortunate for the German. But meanwhile as well, up in the fight for 6th place, Yoda is all on the back of this Williams still, like he has been for the past 5 or 6 laps. Just trying to find any grip he can.
Oh!
Mistake. Williams does well to catch the car, but that's going to seriously compromise this run. DRS now open for the McLaren driver. Which way is he going to go? He looks to the inside, and that's going to be an easy move for the Albanian. heading into the braking zone. And as you're saying, Striff, one mistake can easily cost you a position in these kinds of conditions.
Oh man, on the angle I was seeing on my end of this camera here, Mikcow, it looked like he was just flying through into a wall there, and I thought it was going to be game over, but it was, of course, that runoff area exiting through.
The first pit. Brainstew, our race leader, has pit for intermediate tires, so he feels that the rain is coming down heavy enough, or it's going to be coming down heavy enough within the next lap to try and get the undercut on these intermediate tires. So we're going to try and keep an eye on how much grip that Mercedes has. I honestly don't know if it's raining quite.
It's not a lot, Mikcow. It's not a lot, as Swifty just showed him where the grip is on those medium compound tires.
Well, both Red Bulls and Sean as well. So 3 cars all getting past the Mercedes as soon as he came out of the pits on those intermediate tires, and now he's under attack from Remco Van Poorten and Nigel as well.
Brainstew. This could pay off for him down the line, but those tires are going to be so hot, and he is just dropping like a stone through this grid. And we said that any kind of major mistake could cost you a ton of positions. Well, these intermediates are costing Brainstew heavily here, as, of course, the race leader, until he came in for the switch. The one thing to note is all of these racers still have DRS enabled, and that was, of course, the indicator as we see Luktra now on Rackety coming down that Sector 3 straight, Mikcow. Very clearly ahead of the McLaren into the hairpin now. On that inside is Rackety going to get the traction for a switchback. He is on the mediums, but Luktra on the much fresher hards as well.
Yeah, I don't know how Rackety is holding up on those mediums. We saw S-King in our Tier 2 race go 22 laps on hards, and he said he was nearing puncture territory, so 18 laps on a set of medium compound tires.
The battle of teammates right now is Jean is looking to get these Red Bulls, Zamis and Swifty wheel-to-wheel through that hairpin, and Jean has caught up massively to Zamis as a result. Of course, Jean and Zamis, no strangers to battling on circuit right now. Jean with a very late break into turn 1 there, looking to catch up to this Red Bull as best he can. He's looking like he's got a bit more traction than Zamis through turn 1 at the moment.
Yeah, the 2 Red Bulls and 2 Alfa Romeos very, very close to each other as we have a couple more pit stops. Remco Van Poorten and Falcon now heading into the pits, both putting on a set of intermediate tires. And the rain is coming down a bit heavier than it was before, but I still don't.
It's a wheel-to-wheel battle, Mikcow. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's Custom and BTFU. Although a fight for 15th, it's BTFU getting out in front of the Williams right now, and we've seen these two do battle before. Custom looking for a switchback. He's on the inside. BTFU's giving him the space. What kind of traction exit are they going to have? Bit of a snap from Custom there. He gets it under control, but it is BTFU into 15th position, and that was some very good racing there. As Zamis still looking to hunt down Swifty, with Jean not too far behind, as is King in the fight for 5th right now, and there are gaps all over this timing tower.
Yeah, Jean, the 2 Red Bulls actually going side by side through turns 12 and 13. They might be looking for a swap, trying to defend from Jean behind them. Both Red Bulls in the points, which is a nice sight to see. Of course, our fan of Zamis yet to score points in this season thus far, which is unfortunate. But Luttra into the pits now as well, so he feels it's getting wet enough for intermediate tires.
I don't know if it's the right call to go on inters here, Mikcow. Luttra's come in, as has Remco Van Poorten, and we saw Falcon now as well. Fubar was the first driver to jump on them, then it was Brainstew, and Brainstew just plummeted like a stone through, and now it's Jean. Very tight to Swifty as a result of Luttra's pit stop. They've all moved up in position, and Jean is now in that final point slot. Very tight to the rear of Swifty. Less than half a second the gap right now, and there's a slide out from the rear of the Red Bull, and the traction coming out of this Alfa Romeo. He's going to have a move coming down into turn 5. They're wheel to wheel. It's the Alfa Romeo on the outside. Is he going to get this move done? It's tight. It looks like Jean had a fantastic exit there, and he gets the move into 9th ahead of the Red Bull as he looks to hunt back down Zamis, who has gotten a second out in front of Jean now.
Another 2 teammates who are fighting it out. The 2 McLarens currently in 3rd and 4th, so a great result thus far for the McLaren boys. But S-King behind them in that Williams on those fresher mediums, just looking for any way past Rackety. DRS is still enabled here, despite it raining quite a fair bit on our screens. But that is the Williams round the outside, heading into turn 14. Rackety trying to give him a little bit of a squeeze there, heading into the kink of 15. But that'll be the Williams of S-King now.
Oh!
It's a massive tap! And Rackety has gone straight into the back of S-King and just broken his wing completely. Wasn't expecting S-King to go on for another lap. Was just too close.
Mikcow, sorry to interrupt you. It's a wheel-to-wheel battle right now. It's Alex Bido versus Nigel right now in this battle for 11th position. Coming through the final turn, Alex Bido not quite able to move ahead of the Alfa Romeo. But that was a very big tap from Rackety into the rear of S-King indeed, and he definitely jumped into the pit lane for some intermediate compound tires after that one.
Now, what about these guys up the top here? There's the yellow flag in sector 2. That's Fubar off again.
Oh, and you hate to see it with Fubar off into the gravel. The poor guy just trying to get the race through here in the Racing Point. Fubar, we all love you, my friend.
Gets a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits.
He's just trying to let the cars by, and he gets the penalty, but it's Alex Bido on the inside of Swifty now through the S in Sector 2, and Nigel has a beautiful view of this action right now, and the rain isn't seeming to stop the Ferrari now, who has made his way from a very, very far back position in this race, to say the least. He is, of course, on 18-lap-old hard compound tires at the moment and still fighting for positions. But, of course, fighting for position, Nigel within half a second of the Red Bull coming through Sector 3 now. Light tap from the Alpha on the rear of Swifty. And we have a yellow flag, and Fubar is just really struggling with those tires at the moment. Those intermediate compound tires not doing what he needed them to do, which was give him a little bit more traction through these slippy conditions.
And Remco Van Putten has also had an off at turn 8 as well, so
Nigel,
this early gamble has not paid off for these guys.
Nigel with a very good move on Swifty down into the hairpin. Is he going to hold it, though? Of course, there is still more to go, and we've seen it again. It is the same thing. Once again, Nigel and Swifty come together. That's Nigel now, who got ahead of Swifty. And then Swifty into the rear of the Alfa Romeo coming into the final turn. And we saw the same thing happen with Rackety and King just a few moments ago. So it's very slick through there, or they're just missing their braking after the very, very tight overtaking positions. But a lot of racers now switching these tires. Swifty onto some inters. Oh man, this race has been absolutely shaken up after that rain started to fall.
I'm curious on how these two Alpha Towers are going. They're currently running 1-2 with the 6 laps left, but both of them are yet to pit. As Fubar said, nope, I've had enough. These tires are awful. Just really unfortunate for the Racing Point driver.
Now Rackety, here on lap 22, Mikcow has pit for soft compound tires in the McLaren.
Interesting. So he feels like the rain isn't going to get heavy enough. So what does that mean for these front few?
We talked about it earlier before the rain started to fall. We have
Freeways
those.
in the pit.
All right, so freeware
into the pits. So our race leader heading into that pit lane gets the car slowed out in time. What kind of tires is it going to be for the German? It's a set of softs. I repeat, it's a set of softs for the AlphaTauri. Where is he going to come out? Fraser heading into the pits as well. So the rain might have come down, but it wasn't heavy enough to warrant intermediate tires. All these guys on inters might have just jumped the gun. Fraser actually puts on a set of intermediate tires.
Yeah, now someone who's going to struggle here, Mikcow, is King, because he's on these intermediate compound tires. You see BTFU, he's on these mediums. I think he can make it to the end on the mediums. Whether or not he has a super amount of pace in them, that's a completely different story, but I think he may just have enough pace to get ahead of those inters. Now, one thing to talk about is, of course, if any of these racers are listening to the broadcast Sterling Moss style, Mikcow said it, we think these drives are a lot quicker right now. And, I mean, your race leader freeware pitting for softs, that's a very clear indicator here.
Yeah, that's rain's certainly falling, though. I don't know. There's a lot of confusion all across the grid at this point, and even up here in the commentary booth, if I'm being honest. But BTFU still holding on to the back of S-King relatively well. Of course, those slick tires not giving him a whole lot of traction.
I'd say he's got about 4 or 5 really good laps on those softs before they really hit a cliff, Mikcow. because of these wet conditions, he's going to have a little bit more life in those softs, given they're not going to heat up as quick. Track conditions, they're a little more damp than you'd normally see in a dry race. And now it's BTFU with a good carry of traction. Looking at King. Again, King on these intermediate compound tires. He's going to be feeling it.
And Chenjay stays out again.
Rackety gets ahead of Swifty.
Remco Van Putten has now been lapped as he pit for another, well, for a fresh set of softs. But yeah, judging from how this battle between S-King and BTFU is going, and the fact that DRS is still enabled, looks like the dries are still slightly the better tire to be on for the time being, as BTFU going up the inside, heading into the hairpin. Zamis heading into the pits now. And BTFU will make that move for P7 stick. And Zamis has now fitted a set of intermediate tires.
Oh no. So Zamis has come in for inters.
That is 9 drivers on intermediate tires strip. That is half of the remaining drivers. The yellow flag in sector 3, that's Hyper. He's had an off. Closes the door on Swifty a little bit, trying to regain control of that car.
I'm laughing, Mikcow, because this is France Season 2 all over again. And of course, France had the same story in round 3 of last season. And nobody knew what tires were the best to go on. Of course, that time it was a battle between intermediate versus wets. This time around, it's an intermediate versus dry story here. And this is the stuff you love to see. Confusion, Mikcow. Confusion makes for some serious excitement.
There certainly is a lot of confusion. But Chenjay, our current race leader, is still yet to pit. And with 4 laps remaining, what's he going to do? He has to make that mandatory pit stop.
King.
He crossed the line to start lap 25 of 28, so I'm a bit worried for him.
Astrodate is in a solid position right now on some fresh softs, considering he has just taken King now. BTFU is next, and the gap is quite close between those two. But Freeware, with so much speed on these fresh softs compared to Yoda right now, I think Freeware is on for a possible win. Chenjay only 6.5 seconds ahead of his teammate. It's going to be tight, but Yoda right now is showing the speed in those softs, especially even with these wet conditions, is a lot compared to these worn dry tires.
Yeah, that's Freeware now back up into P2, just less than 6 seconds behind his teammate, who, might I remind you, needs to make that mandatory pit stop. I just checked the race director. He did start the race on those hard compound tires, so, you know, as has Nigel, I believe, as well. But that's Lutra going around the outside of turn 4 on the intermediate tires. So he's now up into P9 in a points position for the pink Mercedes.
So much battling throughout this race, Mikcow. A lot of it happening into that hairpin as well. Very clear overtakes in those DRS zones. But just look at the tire differences you see on the grid right now. Look at the gaps. I mean, this has been an exciting race here, and we love to see it. China, you know, very good to see a race like this around China today. That is for sure. And we saw it earlier with Tier 2 as well. Tier 2 putting on a great race. And things have just been very confusing here in this last stint in this rain weather.
And Chenjay finally pulls into the pits. So Freeway now will inherit the race lead. Yoda will inherit that P2. But it's going to be close, I think, between Alex Bitto and Chenjay.
Alex Bitto, he's coming out of that hairpin. What's it going to be for Chenjay? He's going to get the tires changed in time. Now he's coming through the final turn. Where is Alex Bitto going to land here? Alex Bitto, for those that are just tuning in. Oh, man.
Oh, looks like Alex Bitto has gotten ahead of Chenjay before at the pit exit, but Chenjay on those fresh softs just takes that position right back through turn 2. And that was probably a bit too close for comfort for the AlphaTauri, I'm not going to lie.
That was a huge risk from Chenjay there versus the Ferrari. Of course, the 23-lap old hards. It's going to be a monstrous achievement if Alex is to stay within Chenjay. And you can already see the gap falling off now. But, of course, talking about gaps, it's less than half a second between Astrodite and Fraser. Fraser on those intermediate compound tires doesn't seem to stand a chance against the Haas. And now we have a yellow flag in Sector 3. That is going to be the Renault of Remco Van Putten off outside the long Sector 3 straight there. But right now, we're keeping the action geared to Fraser versus Astrodite right now. Astrodite 2 laps old on these soft compound tires, going to the end, of course. Is Fraser going to be able to defend him before the straight here? Oh, and he just pulls off completely.
Just need to let him go. But they're still side by side heading into turn 12. But Fraser, those intermediates just not in that proper operating window. There's so much confusion as Fraser has to catch the slide through turn 13. His DRS has finally been disabled, so now the inters should be faster theoretically for the last 2 laps of this race.
Well, that could come in handy for Fraser. It could have been very handy for Fraser now, as he is on these inters within a second of the car ahead, and that is Astrodite, who will have to defend on the softs. If that is the case, it worked out quite well, and Astrodite's going into the pit lane.
Alex is pitting as well.
Whoa, so that is a huge chain of events that's happening now here on the penultimate lap of this race. Freeware out by 11 seconds on Yoda at the moment. Shenjay has been absolutely tearing down that gap between him and the McLaren right now, in that looking for that 1-2 for AlphaTauri as well. And that is just wild to see those late pit stops. So fastest lap is in order, but well, actually no. How are they going to get fastest lap? So what are they doing getting onto these intermediate compound tires? They're going for some late positions here.
I'm not quite sure, Striff. I'm not quite sure.
I'm confused now. We have the clearest view of everything, and we're getting confused with some of these strategies. And one thing to talk about is that fastest lap, and it is currently held by Luktra in P6, a 134.2. So he is currently set to take home an additional point for the Racing Point squad.
I'm just still baffled that these drivers would pit so late. You know, Alex was in a comfortable P4, like P3 or P4, and he just threw that away. So that's very, very, that's a massive mistake from the Ferrari driver.
Things are starting to turn torrential here on the circuit now, as things have just definitely evolved. The inters are definitely, and Freeware has come into the pit lane. What is this? Is this team orders? This is absolutely unbelievable. So he's going on intermediate compound tires to the end. He wants to try and get as many positions as possible, and Luktra is currently less than half a second behind King in this fight for 5th down into the hairpin. So this is a huge turn of events. The race leader has now pit onto fresh intermediate compound tires. Yoda is in lead of this race on the final lap. Falcon has now retired, and he's just outside of, where is that? That is Yoda coming through Sector 1. And where can we see Falcon?
The slight tap Shenjay has now gotten past from Fraser, so if Shenjay could have extended maybe one more lap than pit on the intermediate tires, that would have been enough. Of course, letting his teammate by, who I'm lost for words.
This finale is something else, Mikcow, and we love to see confusion like this. Alex Bido is in a fight between John right now. He came in for those fresh intermediates. He's looking for 8th position right now, coming out of turns 1 through 4. What's it going to be? Is that the Ferrari out in front? Oh, is it? It is so close.
I'm watching this timing tower. Yoda on this wet track. He's losing time rapidly. That Mercedes is ever catching, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final lap of the race, and looking on board with Fraser, he can see that McLaren stranded there.
Oh no, Yoda. He is hung out to dry, literally on the dry compound tires. Mikcow, these intermediates are going to carry Fraser ahead of the McLaren here. Look at the gap ticking down. We're on the final lap of this race. We're in Shanghai on the Sector 3 straight. Yoda going the McLaren. He can't do it. He doesn't have enough speed. The overtake is in full swing. What's it going to be down to the hairpin? How is Yoda going to hold it? Oh, here we go. There is the dive. This is so intense.
Bit of a wheel tap there. Freeware is right behind them as well. They're wheel to wheel heading towards the final corner, but there is absolutely no grip left in those dry tires. Fraser making the move before the final corner. He goes a little bit wide there.
Freeware's gonna get Yoda. Freeware's gonna get Yoda.
Yoda wins the race!
Oh, man, what a finish it was from the McLaren, and we have a multitude of position changes. Luktra gets into the podium on penalties. Freeware jumps into 5th as Shenjay on the soft compound tire. He comes home in 4th, and what a finish to this race. Holy cow. Holy, round 4 MRL action, ladies and gentlemen. What a finish it is. Of course, King in 6th. Zamis coming home with points. We thought it was a big mistake for him to jump onto those intermediates. Look at the rain. Look at the water on the circuit right now, Mikcow. This has been a spectacular finale. Wow. What amazing stuff here for round 4. Oh, man. Tier 1 has been amazing us all season long, man. We cannot wait to see what happens in Zandvoort next week. Holy smokes.
Yeah, so going through the rest of the points positions, S-King 1/10 behind the 2 AlphaTauris in 6th place. Zamis will come across the line in 7th to score his first points of the season. Jan coming across the line in P8. Alex Bitto P9. And Aphrodite will round off the top 10. BTFU, unfortunately, on his return to MRL, will finish the race in P11. Outside of the points, Nigel will come across the line in 12th, Swifty 13th, Custom in 14th, Rackety in 15th, Rainstew now coming across the line in 16th, and Hyper in 17th, with Remco Van Putten being a lap down. But, oh my goodness.
And don't go anywhere, because we're about to get the 3 podium finishers in here. We're going to get the interviews. We need to find out how that went in the cockpit.
Shenjay, the driver of the day.
Wow, what a drive. What a drive. Of course, we're going to take a look at this grid right now, but that is Yoda with the race win. Holy, what a performance. And he was hung out to dry there in the final lap. But, of course, keeping it clean, bringing it home in the McLaren was Yoda. And there's Shenjay there, 2nd position. Lovely stuff. Or not Shenjay, excuse me. Fraser. Of course, I get confused because all of the avatars look the same. Oh, man, what a race. Oh, no words. No words. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, so in the end, it was Yoda with the race win here. He has been talking about it all week, winning China, and he did it from 3rd on the grid in a super weather dynamic race. What a race from him. Fraser in 2nd, Luktra rounding off this podium, Shenjay in 4th, Freeware in 5th, King in 6th, Zamis in 7th, Jean in 8th. Alex Bitto started in 9th. Finished in 9th after some drama throughout the race. I'm sure the stewards are going to have to look at a few incidents throughout this race. Of course, we'll have the steward decisions and things like that ahead of round 5 next week. Astrolite in 10th, BTFU in 11th, Nigel in 12th, Swifty in 13th, Custom in 14th, Rackety in 15th, Brainstew 16th position here, Hyper in 17th, Remco Van Putten 18th, 19th for Falcon, and Fubar rounding off the grid in 20th. Very unfortunate race for the German driver, of course. That was just something else. You see all of the tire changes here in the race director as well. We're going to get these interviews going in just a few moments' time. But how did you guys like that race in the chat? Let's get some PogChamp. Let's get some emotes in the chat. Let's see what you guys thought of that one. That was something else, and that was what we like to see here for MRL. Of course, we do this every Thursday. Tier 2 and Tier 1 action, and soon, starting August 25th, on Tuesdays, we're going to have a European division. So, something else to look forward to. It's going to be at either 7, 8, or 9 BST. Of course, the drivers voting on that. Application's still ongoing. Link in the chat. Now, wow, that was something else, Mikcow. How are we doing?
I'm still speechless. That was... Yeah, I'm literally lost for words. You can hear it in my voice. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that race. That was just wow. Wow. But we do have one interview waiting in the wings. It is our race winner, Yoda. What a race, mate. What a race. You've been saying it all week. Those tires must have felt awful in that final lap. Just watching that Mercedes go wide. He got a penalty at that last corner. Just wow. Wow. How was that for you? How much stress?
That was very stressful, very intense. One stop on the mediums, I thought it was impossible, really. But once it started raining, the track cooled down, and it really helped with the tire wear. and I just decided to stuck it in there. I saw people around me started pitting, but I wasn't sure on what to pit, so I just stayed out because just nothing seemed right. The softs were the fastest when it started raining, and then it was like lap 27. Just as we started lap 27, the I don't know, there's something wrong, I think, with the weather model in this game, but it just got instantly slippery. And yeah, basically granny driving on the last 2 laps, just keep it on the track, not crash. And yeah, I saw I saw I saw everyone was pitting, and I just decided to risk it for the win because that's what I wanted this week.
Well, you certainly got that. That was an unbelievable drive. That last lap, man. After freeway pit, we thought it was over. That was the deal done. But the rain just poured and poured and poured, and we just saw through that sector 2, that Mercedes, the gap went from 6 seconds to 5 to 4 to 3, and it was just unbelievable. What an
Yeah,
amazing end to the race.
yeah. Fraser was catching me fast, but I checked the driver behind when he overtook Chenjay, and I saw that he had a 3-second penalty, so that kind of relaxed me a little bit. I don't know if he got it on the last corner because driver behind told me that he had it earlier, so
He
I
must have
didn't want to
gotten another
fight
one.
too hard. Maybe,
He
yeah.
must have got another one that last corner, but he certainly got a penalty on that final corner. You saw him running wide there.
Yeah, I
But
did.
Yoda, congratulations, mate. That was a
Thank you.
stellar drive. Maybe some luck played a bit of a role in it, but no, there was so much confusion out there, and you just made the best of what you had. So congratulations
Yes,
again on
thank you.
the
Now,
first win for the season.
if I'm not mistaken, that is your second official MRL season win. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, the last time we saw Yoda in that number 1 slot in a race, if I'm not mistaken, it was Russia, where you came from behind the grid twice to win. How does that race compare to this one?
I think this one was harder with the changing conditions, with the rain, with the unsurety of the tires. Like one lap, the softs were better. One lap, the inters were better. It was a lot of confusion in talking to the other drivers because some of us were talking. Everyone was confused. Nobody knew what the best move was. But yeah, I just decided to stick it in, just risk it for a biscuit, as they say.
Risk it for the
and it
biscuit.
and it paid out.
Well, congratulations on the win, Yoda. It was very, very wild at the end there. I'm sure you'll have a good time checking back later when you go and rewatch the broadcast. I'm sure you'll have a good
Definitely.
laugh.
Definitely.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, Yoda. That wraps it up for Talks with Yoda, and I do believe that is it for interviews, if I'm not mistaken, Mikcow.
Yeah, there's no one else in that waiting room, so I think unfortunately that would be it. But man, what a race!
That was that was something else. I mean, I said it to Unicorn earlier. I think we're going to see some very, very unique racing today because these drivers were put in somewhat of a cage last week around Hanoi. Of course, a very tight circuit. China, a little bit more open. Same with a lot of, good straights here. Well, that big, long back straight, and you have the pit straight as well. So there's some good straights to get that car positioned into some overtaking slots. Turn 1, we saw a lot of wheel-to-wheel action through Turn 1 today. A lot of overtaking down into the hairpin. We even saw some solid round the outside and through the inside moves in Sector 2. So there was just a ton of action in this one. And of course, thank you to everybody tuning into the stream. You guys, again, are why we do these races. We love you guys coming out, supporting the racers, supporting the stream. Everybody that followed today, subscribed, cheered bits. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, round 5 next week for the Dutch Grand Prix. We are going to Zandvoort, and it will be the first time our racers have been there in a league setting, of course. And I don't know too many leagues that have gotten as far as Zandvoort yet in their calendars, so who knows? It could be a really, really fun experience. Of course, Yoda with the win. solid finish from him. Congratulations to everybody who finished the race in the points today. Mikcow, do you have any last words for our stream before we head on over and close things out for the evening?
The only thing got two things. Strifium. Firstly, if you enjoyed that race and you want to become a part of the action and get involved in the community, be sure to join our Discord in the bio, and put the command in the chat. We always welcome new members to this wonderful community. Talk about all things racing, and it's just it's a great community to be a part of. So if you want to join the MRL and the Misfits, be sure to head over to our Discord, and don't forget to tune in this Saturday for the next round of the MRL Endurance Series for the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, for ahead of the F1 Spanish GP. So that'll be on Saturday at 5 p.m. CDT.
That's right. Thank you everybody who watched the stream, who caught Tier 2 earlier and joined us for Tier 1. Of course, we know in the EU it is a little bit later for you guys. Of course, we have that EU grid coming out soon. August 25th will be the first race for that. Of course, check us out on Twitter for details on the time. But I can tell you, August 25th, it's a Tuesday. It's going to be EU action for MRL for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but in that time region, if you will. And that's happening August 25th. It's going to be the Spanish Grand Prix following along with our Tier 2 and Tier 1 grids. Now, that's it for us. We will see you, of course, this Saturday for our Spanish Grand Prix endurance race to follow along with the current Formula 1 World Championship. We will see you then. It is at, I believe, 5 p.m. CDT, 11 p.m. BST, if I'm not mistaken, of course. See you then, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to jump on to the outro now, and we're going to go in, of course, raid the founder of the Misfits Discord community, which is a great community for you guys to come in, learn, make friends. We're going to go and hit up Zamis, but before that, we'll see you guys after the outro. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the racing action, and if you did, make sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing for more great racing. Of course, you can check us out on Twitch. Every Thursday we have racing then, and we're going to have a lot more coming to you soon. Twitter, where you can find all of our updates, and Discord if you're interested in becoming a part of the Misfits community. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you next time.